Alright, so in this video, I'm going to be showing you guys how to replace front brake rotors and brake pads. And I'll also do a short little segment on the hardware for the calipers. So first off, I'm going to start by removing the caliper, which is a 15 millimeter. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I actually loosened out the caliper bolts here. I haven't took them off yet. I'm just keeping them on there for now. Since I don't have a piston tool or a caliper piston tool to retract the piston back into the caliper for the new brake pads, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to retract that right now before I take off the actual caliper. So what I do is I do it with the pry bar, and I do this very slowly because if you do it very fast, you could mess up the piston, or all your fluid just rushes out like crazy from your brake reservoir. And my caliper is ready to come out now. It's just that easy. Now I'll put it up here. Some people tie these. You don't want to leave them hanging, obviously, because of the brake line could get damaged. So I'm going to take off my brake pads and inspect them. If you don't know how to inspect brake pads, there's some material out there on the internet. But I'll just go ahead and show you real quick the pads here. As you can see, they got cracks in them. These are some higher performance brake pads. Now the wear on them is even, so that tells me I'm not having no bearing problems or anything else. There's no taper on them or anything like that, so that's good. Now the cracks, though, this tells me that I've done some pretty hard braking on this car, and I've heated up the rotors and the brake pads, and they actually cracked. But anyways, I'm going to go ahead and remove the rotor now. Now, in order to do that, I have to remove the rest of the hardware, or brake caliper hardware. So there's the caliper bracket there. Just two bolts that hold down the bracket. Now, after removing that bracket, that allows me to just pretty much simply just pull out the rotor, and that's it. This rotor is pretty warped out. I could turn this on the lathe, but what's the point? I already got some high performance rotors for it. Alright, so I got the new rotor here. Pretty nice drilled slotted rotors. Very, very nice. They're supposed to be very high performance, so to say. I don't know. I did get these for a good price online. They look pretty good to me, though. They look like they've been balanced. They got milled slots here, so they look like they're balanced, and they did a really good job on these. But anyways, I'll just go ahead and slide my rotor on there, and it's pretty much assemble as you disassembled at this point. So put my rotor in there, and I'm going to be installing my caliper, or my caliper bracket. But before I do all that stuff, though, I'm going to be replacing this hardware. Now, what I do is I get a screwdriver a flat screwdriver, and I hit it on the edges here of these boots, and I'll pry them open, or I'll actually pry them on like 4 spots, do like a cross pattern, and they pop off a little bit of force, and then I'll be removing the inserts. One actually just came out on its own, but these are little rubber inserts that go inside the caliper bracket under the boots, which actually slide on the bolt that you see right there. So as you press your brakes and they wear down after time, they're pretty much self-adjusting, so the bolt actually slides in and out of the caliper housing, or the caliper bracket. So most people don't replace this, though. It's recommended that you do this. If your hardware is in good condition, then go ahead and just use your hardware and just replace either your brake pads or your rotors or both. But it's always good practice if you're going to replace one rotor, and you got to replace both of them. You got to do the front, and then you can do the back. And that's pretty much how you remove the boot. Just going all around the edges, prying it up on its sides, and it's just that easy. The new ones just slide in a little bit easier. It depends. Sometimes you might have to sand them down a little bit to get them on there, grease them up. But as I can see, there was only one insert on this, so all I need to do now is just replace these inserts. Now usually you'll get 4 of these, which is enough to do the front, and then you need to buy another kit for the back. So after putting my inserts here, I like to do is get the caliper bolt, and I'll pretty much oil it up a little bit, as I did with the inserts that go in there. And I'll go ahead and put the bolt on there, and just lightly tapping it until I hear a little clinking sound. When I hear the clink, that means the little rubber piece has gone all the way down to the bottom of the caliper bracket. So you don't gotta force it in, and just give it some light taps like that, and as you can hear, there's like a little clink to it now. And I kind of feel it there too, so it's bottomed out. There it is. Oh, I've also gone ahead and I've greased up inside of where the insert goes in, and when I actually filled it up inside, so when I go to put the bolt, it'll actually squeeze the excess grease out, and it'll end up inside the boot here. And that's it. Brand new bolt, or I mean boot. Okay, so I've gone ahead and I've tightened down the caliper bracket onto the hub, and now I'll be installing my hardware. These are actually they go at the ends of the caliper bracket. And this actually helps quiet down the brakes, and it helps with the vibration, and it just overall, you gotta replace these pretty much every time. You don't have to, but generally it's the best thing to do every time anyways. So if you're poor and you just need pads, I guess you can get away with that. But many times I've had to just use or just put pads on rotors, but on this car though, everything was pretty warped. So with the hardware there in place, I'm going to be installing these ceramic brake pads so they can match the performance of the rotors. So there's one of these brake pads that has a tab. The other one doesn't. The one that goes here in the back doesn't. This one in the back doesn't have the wear indicator. That's what it's actually called. It's called a wear indicator. What happens is when your brakes get to a certain point, or they're worn down to a certain point, they actually scratch up against your caliper, which sucks because it ends up eating the caliper because it's metal on metal. But it gets to that point, and once you get that caliper or that metal on metal noise, or like a grinding noise, that means you need brake pads. So now I'll be putting the caliper bolts here. Alright, so my caliper is all tightened down there. All that's needed to do now is actually put the tire back on there, tighten up lug nuts, and pump the brake a couple of times. And then check if I need to replace any loss of brake fluid that might have came up from the master cylinder. Alright, so I've gone ahead, tightened down the lug nuts there, and I'm done. All I need to do now is break those brakes in, break them in, break the brakes and the rotors. So now once I break them in though, it should stay nice, and I shouldn't have to replace those rotors for a long while. But anyways, that's how you install brake rotors and brake pads on a 2000 Grand Prix GTP. Also works for other Grand Prix. To keep this video as short as possible, it's the same procedure for the rear, except that the rear, the disc brakes are solid. Also in the rear, it takes 14 millimeter socket and wrench to do the calipers. The front on this car is 15, rear is 14 millimeter, and it's just the same procedure. Nothing special. Maybe if I get some time I'll do it on another video, but it's the same process though, from front to back. And I get a lot of Grand Dam questions though. Well, the same thing for the Grand Dam. And it's pretty much the same thing for the Grand Dam, except I don't know what the sizes or the bolt sizes are on the Grand Dam, but it's pretty much the same thing. I mean, it's not very hard to replace brake pads and rotors and the hardware. So I thought I'd just show you guys a little bonus video here. I'm just gonna be breaking in the brakes here. No sudden stops. Just going through the small town here. Short cruise. It's gonna take a while to break in those ceramic brakes, just because they take a little bit of time. But you want to start very gradually applying the brakes, and no sudden stops, especially on the ceramic stuff, or the high performance rotors, because you can give them one hell of a shock by just start braking in suddenly and doing hard braking. So I'll go up to 50 miles an hour and I'll just apply short pressure, slow down to 30, go back up again, back up to 50. But that's pretty much it. When it comes to braking in rotors, I'm kind of going uphill now, so there's no point using the brakes right now. But on the way down, though, I'll just come very slowly, head back down to town gradually, and use the brakes gradually from time to time. No high speed or anything like that. But I'm gonna conclude the how to install brakes and rotors on a 2000 Grand Prix GTP video. And as always, thanks for watching, and see you on the next one.